Matura Express.
Now you're here.
Hello and welcome to another Matura Express English live stream. Today we're going to talk about graphs, tables, and statistics. Graphs, tables, and statistics it is today. Let's jump into the overview of today's stream. At first, I'm gonna give you an overview of those fancy three things. Then I'm gonna help you how to describe graphs, tables, and statistics. And then in the end, as always, I'm gonna talk about, I'm gonna give you a demonstration of how to talk about them actually in an exam situation. So let's dive into the topic. So there are several forms of graphs, tables, and statistics, of course. So the statistics, of course, are general. In statistics, we use graphs and tables and charts and so on. Therefore, there are statistics use a lot of graphs and tables and so on. I just repeated the same thing I said. But you get what I mean. So in this case here, the round thingy here, that's called a pie chart. In the pie chart, it's the same in German, ein Kuchendiagramm. It best illustrates, in this case, percentages or shares in percentages of all households. Easy to design and I think easy to read and talk about. But we're gonna discuss this later. On the right side, or on your left side, yes, there is another chart. This case, it's not a pie chart. It shows you in this case also a number, in this case about top internet countries with the highest number of users. In this case, China is very on the very top. Then there we have a graph, beautiful graph, diagram with a graph. Also helps you to illustrate something. And this is a table, a very simple one with only 2 columns, so easy to read, straightforward table, I'd say. Now, how to describe graphs? There are a lot of phrases, words that can be used to describe graphs. And in order to successfully do so, you should know at least a few of them, and it is quite handy. I just have to go down. Yeah, thought about that. Yeah, now I'm right. You should, in order to do so, to successfully describe a graph, you should know maybe 2 or 3 words that have the same meaning. So that there are synonyms for, in this case, if something goes up, you can use the words boost, climb, or rise. Of course, increase and grow and so on. You should know a few of them so that you can change it up, and then you don't kind of use all the same thing, same words all the same time. If you want to describe when something increases dramatically, use the words rocket up, to soar, to shoot up, or to skyrocket, my personal favorite actually. If something has reached an end, something peaks or reaches a maximum or reaches an extreme. The opposite is something, the opposite of increase, of course, is decrease. You can also use the synonyms, or use synonyms such as fall, drop, deteriorate, which is a really good word, of course. If something decreases very fast, it means it collapses, or crash, or plunge, or slump, or plummet. And the opposite of reaching a peak is, of course, to reach a low, or hit a low, or bottom out. If something isn't changing, it remains stable, steady, unchanged, or stagnate. That's the same as in German. Stagnieren, stagnate, easy to remember. If you know the German word, just put it into English, actually. Really easy to remember, I think. Something can also even out or flatten out after a period where there was a peak and then a decrease, and then something flattens out, levels out. And then, of course, it can remain stable. It also can increase or skyrocket and then reach a peak, of course, decrease or plummet or something like this. Yes. There are actually statistics that I found on the internet, and I hope the link will open. This case can't open. We have to do it the other way. And that's just to show you how statistics look. I think you all know how they look, but just to illustrate you how they can look, they have graphs, tables, they all use that stuff you have to know about. Pie charts, and so on. Here we go. Here we have a pie chart, for example. We have a chart. I think there's actually more. Handgun. Yes, there's just a another explanation with this bar chart here. If we go back, there's maybe so you can click onto it. There's a small text here about third of US gunners. Yeah. So you can click yourself through it if you're interested in that. I think it's a good way to practice, or ask someone to print you off statistics or someone, and then you can actually practice to how to describe them and so on. So describing tables is something different than describing graphs and bar charts and pie charts and so on. basically you can just start with the first column, of course, the second column, and so on, and compare them. It's very important. But at first, before you start with kind of comparing all the things you can read here, it's important to mention what this, in this case, table shows and what is it all about. So the really general things, and then you go, you get more specific about it. Yeah, what I've written out here, just as a sentence you could use, for example, it is quite surprising to me that 37% of all homicides in Switzerland are committed with firearms. Important here is that you don't only read the whole table, which means you can't start off with Colombia, 85%, USA, and so on and so on. That's not what the examiners want to hear. They want that you are able to work with it. Of course, you can name the numbers, but then compare them, maybe point out numbers that you haven't or wouldn't have thought that it's such a high number. And yeah, think about it and work with it. That's the most important thing I can tell you. Not only read it. The examiners can also read it, but add your own knowledge and work with it. So before we do the demonstration exam, I'd like to put in some useful vocabulary and phrases. I think we have, no, not that, I don't think, I know we have talked about to plummet, stagnate, increase. Fluctuate is also an important term, and climb and fall, rise and drop. You should remember these in order to have just a variety of vocabulary where you can work with which you can work with. Phrases. The graph shows that this pie chart illustrates blah blah blah. The slices of this pie chart compare the car owners with people that use public transportation, for example. You can also use adverbs, of course. Something has increased or decreased significantly, slightly, or dramatically, or slowly, gradually, steadily, rapidly. And something can also level off at a specific percentage, as we've talked a lot about it. If you want to compare something with something is bigger or smaller or as big as, so it's the same. So the demonstration of such a graph, describing graph and tables and statistics. First off, you should mention what does the graph, table, or statistics show. Then explain what the horizontal or vertical axis, if you have a line graph or bar chart. Column. Oh, I have to start again. Explain what the horizontal and vertical axis show, or explain what the columns and rows of a table show. And then you start to describe. Really easy. So in this case, we have this pie chart. This pie chart shows a breakdown of electricity consumption in 2008 by categories of consumption in Austria. The slices of the pie chart are, or basically the numbers in the slices of the pie chart are shares in percentage of all households, and then you can start comparing. For example, what I can see from here is that the heating takes up the biggest percentage of all households, and fridges and freezers is the smallest part, actually. So you can start either with comparing the smallest and the biggest, or second biggest, and something that might have struck you during the preparation, that you want to point out, that you want to talk about in more detail. Okay, this is, of course, a beautiful graph, a diagram. You have the horizontal axis, you have the vertical axis. The horizontal axis shows the months, the vertical axis shows the units sold, and the whole diagram is about worldwide sales of product Y by company X. So just to explain you, to help you. And of course, you can start off with January. It increased up until March, where the units that were sold peaked, then they stagnated, and then they plummeted actually, and then they skyrocketed again. So use those words and try to kind of mix the words you're using. Then you will be good, actually, for the exam. Do we have actually any questions for this?
Unfortunately, we don't have any questions.
We don't have any questions. But if you have questions or a question concerning this topic, describing graphs, tables, and charts, let us know. We will come back as soon as possible. That's basically it for today's stream.